Okay, I got the wrong thing on. Hold on a second. Okay, that's better. And I'm Bill the Geek. Okay, we want to remind you that I can't seem to stay on target today. That is simply because back to this hat. Um, I've a Rolade, big one. Got heartburn. Why do I have heartburn? Um, I don't know. What I do. So pardon me. Chewy tums. Mm. The question is, I'm right out of left field, but is it true that in Islam, um, adults are encouraged to have sex with children and there's no age of consent? I don't know who to ask the question. I'm not a Muslim. There's no Muslims living on my street. I'm sure there are some Muslims in my community, but we're going to say probably about 1%, not even half a percent. Like, there's really no Muslims in my community. But, I know that there are Muslims in other communities, and I still don't have anybody like on my phone that I can call who's a Muslim to say, is this true? I just don't have anybody. In my town, there's a little, I can only think of one, little tiny mosque that's like a converted old corner store. I mean, is it fair to ask the question? Where do people get their ideas about these kind of things? Do they go to Wikipedia and look it up there, or who tells you? I'm going to go with you pretty much get it from mainstream news. Mainstream news has brainwashed you into believing whatever you believe about whatever it is that you happen to be thinking about at that time. Maybe you've been seeing some Hollywood movies and there have been some Islamic terrorists as the bad guys. So your general feeling is anything to do with this particular culture. There, that's where you get your ideas from. And these ideas, I mean, when they use the Islamic terrorist um, as a bad guy in a Hollywood movie, it's because they need a really bad guy. You are totally unable to reply to me because the only thing that comes around in your head is, well, uh, there was that Paris shooting over the Charlie Hebdo. Those were Islamic. There was ISIS. You know, there are a few other shootings here and there having to do with Islamic. But all this information that's come to you, it's not reliable. Mainstream news lies. They create wars so they get viewership. Did Charlie Hebdo really happen? Fuck if I know. I don't believe anything they say. If there's a way for them to go and get eyeballs, they're going to do it, and I'm going to call them fucking liars. I don't believe anything that comes on the internet or on mainstream news. So, as far as What people say people in the Islamic faith do and don't do, I don't believe it because there's nobody here for me to go and check on. And maybe in your town there is, but where I live, there just aren't. What do we know about people of the Islamic faith? Generally speaking, they're conservative people. They're family people. And generally speaking, conservative family people and their family members are not into encouraging people to have sex with minors. They're not. They're very protective of their children. So, based on that, if you're an American, I'm going to say if you've got a Muslim immigrant to your country, pretty much they're Republican, conservative Republican. Do you think they're going to be lining up to join Planned Parenthood? No, they're not. So if someone is smearing the Islamic faith and saying that they're encouraging people to have sex with children, that's a fucking dirty lie. And I'm calling it racist because, generally speaking, Muslim countries are Muslim countries. They're like, one religion country. And so whatever race of people is in that country, they're Muslim. So you're basically, when you say those things, you're being racist. And you know better. If you watch a lot of Family Guy, you'll know this is Stewie. And, on television, they're going to use a stereotype to try and get a laugh for you. But just because they tell you something to get a laugh doesn't mean you shouldn't look at it and ask, is this really. I mean, are they trying to say that this is the way it is? Because it's a stereotype? It's very easy to get hooked by video media because it's very much in your face. Video media, whether it's coming from YouTube or it's coming from mainstream news. And advertisers know it. Media studies people know it. And you've got to be media wise. And media are very snaky when it comes to everything. So I always have a difficult time because, as I've said many, many times, the collective consciousness of humans on planet Earth is really very low. And if there are issues with different institutions on planet Earth, But does that mean that, it's a very slippery slope, isn't it? Where are the people with higher consciousness on the planet? Because there are some that are well above 200 on the scale. Pretty much we have got a real big, I can't go and tell you. On one hand, I keep telling you, be kind to another, and I find myself quite often saying people are assholes because they've got low consciousness. Is that kind? I think I'm in integrity and I'm telling the truth, and it's a very difficult truth, a very inconvenient truth. Are there cannibals in Hollywood? Is it true? Are they drinking adrenochrome? Well, one thing we knew about California way back in the 60s and the 70s is in California they like to use drugs. And insert any other place on the planet, there's some people that like this and some that don't. And, you're trying to make it out to be, a certain bunch of people are impossible, then you're looking pretty much at the mirror. So how do we move problematic issues? Because today someone's saying, we got to watch out for the Muslims because they're after our children. But we know even in mainstream news they talked about the Roman Catholic Church and the ongoing abuse of children by priests. So we can't look the other way and say it doesn't happen. Unless they made that story up in mainstream news. You have a low calibrated level of consciousness on the planet, which means a lot of shitty things happen when people are at low consciousness levels. And you want to get people to raise their consciousness, raise their vibrations. And I keep running out of words. I don't know what else to tell you. Generally speaking, the best way to raise your vibration is to stay the hell away from other humans, go to nature. I'm out of words. Thank you for watching. I don't think any more of these hats want to talk. LT doesn't want to talk. The reason that they gave us Bill the Geek to come in and talk to you is that Bill the Geek is pretty much a somebody who doesn't really talk too much to us, and Bill says, for God's sake, turn off the camera. We've had enough.